I'd like to welcome you all to this meeting of council. This meeting will be live streamed and recorded, and the voices and images of those participating in the meeting may be captured as part of this recording. Indigo Shire Council acknowledges the original custodians of these lands. The people of the rivers and the hills have walked these lands for thousands of years, as well as today, and we pay respect to the elders of the past, present and emerging. As councillors, we have all taken an oath to carry out our duties in the best interests of the people of Indigo Shire and to do this in a fair and impartial manner. We are all committed to exercising the council's powers and functions to the best of our skills and judgment. Are there any apologies or leave of absence? We have Trevor Ireno, CEO. We have Ian Ellett as acting CEO, and come in, you're welcome. And in the acting director of infrastructure is Ewan Oldmeadow. I'd also like to welcome our new director, Sally Rice, who is the director of community and economic development. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest? No. CEO, there's a withdrawal. We're going to withdraw an item. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
You'll need your microphone on.
Thank you. Yes, that is correct. Item, I think it's 11.4, I'm just scrolling. So item 11.4, which is a planning permit application at Bryans Gap Road, Charleroi. We'd like to withdraw that, and that's been in consultation with the owner and applicant. So that's aligned with their wishes.
Great, thank you. Moving on to open forum. We've received questions from 4 people, and I'll ask if each of those people are in the gallery before I read those questions. Kerry Bromwich. So the first question, I might read question 1 and 2 and get a response. Regarding the recent flooding and evacuation of Lake Samble Caravan Park and the proposed master plan, there are predictions for an increase in extreme weather events occurring. So based on these predictions, what does council intend to do to mitigate the risk of this occurring again through the caravan park? And the second question, the proposed glamping tents in the proposed Lake Samble Caravan Park master plan are possibly located in the area that recently flooded. What does council intend to action regarding future flood risk assessment and planning? The Director of Community and Economic Development.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. In relation to the recent infrastructure damage that occurred during the flooding, Ewan and his team are putting the remedial works in place. In relation to the caravan park master plan, all 4 caravan parks in the Indigo Shire are situated on inland waterways. And as such, the waterside amenity also means they can be subject to flooding events occasionally. Lake Samble Caravan Park leaseholders are well equipped, and recently their recovery actions were extremely well executed, with the park reopened for the following weekend following the recent flooding. The master plans recognise natural events can impact businesses, and those natural events can include flooding, fire or pandemics. And the master plan seeks to evolve the park's offering to a variety of park accommodation, increase revenue and create businesses that are resilient. It's important also to note that a key element of the caravan park master plan that will be reflected in all new leases. This will mean that all park operators will in future be required to meet Australian and global tourism sustainability criteria and obtain Economic Tourism Australia accreditation. In relation specifically to the glamping sites, they are by nature flexible, and in fact caravan parks are, again by their nature, far more agile than other accommodation businesses, and sites can be moved if circumstances require them to be so.
The third question, when will the Lake Samble walk, in particular the stairs near the caravan park office, be repaired and reopened? The Director of Infrastructure.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Council staff are working with a number of stakeholders down there. So obviously we've got the caravan park owners, we've also got the NECMA and DELP to reinstate those stairs. But prior to putting them in, we need to identify what's the most appropriate location to put them back in, as they've already been washed out twice prior. So we're working through that process. At this stage, we'll be looking to re-engage on that early in the new year.
Second lot of questions is from Harvey Anderson. That's okay. I can read them out in this form if that's okay. Is it much the same substance? If so, okay, we'll stick with that one, but thank you. Relating to continuing flow of water from the pipe opening between the Cricket Pavilion and Council Car Park. This is all opening comment. This is not about stormwater from extreme rainfall events. We greatly appreciate the works undertaken by Council, e.g. the extra pit, to address this issue. The issue is the persistent high level of groundwater under our house after 2 weeks of fine weather, despite our sump pump operating for about 6 weeks. The question: the unexpected high water table under our house seems associated with the abnormal flows of water from the pipe opening between the oval and the car park. 1, where does this water originate from? Is it the street gutter drains of Mayday? And question 2, will the new development of a caravan park behind Mayday add to my problem? The Director of Infrastructure Services.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Where the water comes from, it's still a process that we're investigating at this stage. We're unsure as to whether there's a leak somewhere or whether there is a spring that's contributing to that. We are quite sure that it's running through our drainage system, and then it goes daylight down near the car park in between the oval that you've referred to in your letter. So we will continue to investigate that. With your second question, I don't believe there'll be any further impact from what's happening with the development at the back of Mayday Hills there, because that will drain into 2 other separate drainage systems as opposed to the one that comes down through the car park and out to the front here.
The third lot of questions tonight is from Jeanette McPetrie. Great, thank you. Question 1, is the proposed manager's residence still going ahead adjacent to Silver Creek with the addition of a proposed boom gate at the entrance? Arguments against being Peach Drive, of the understanding, is a public road, and the fact that it is a wildlife corridor with an existing koala sign. And question 2, if the manager's residence is going ahead, is the area still being cleared for the proposed car parking area? The Director of Community and Economic Development.
Thanks again. The proposal regarding the future manager's residence does remain in the plan. But please note that these concepts are visionary, and the realisation of the individual projects will depend on available funding and private investment. And sustainability and habitat will be accommodated in the design and delivery of individual components of the project, as will the removal of any Indigenous trees, and the philosophy is absolutely to avoid that wherever possible. So the individual elements of the project will be undergone a detailed design before any delivery occurs, and that will pick up on those elements you've raised of concern.
And the last set of questions for tonight is from Robin McLeish. At the February Council meeting and at subsequent meetings, I requested Council to investigate the introduction of speed limits in Indigo Shire CBDs. As yet, I have not received information as to a decision on this matter. Question 1, when will Council provide information on the introduction of 40 km/h speed limits in all of the Shire's CBDs?
Hi, Robin. Look, unfortunately, I can't give you an answer tonight on a definitive decision. So the matter's been referred to Road Safe Victoria. I've had an update recently from Regional Roads Victoria, who have said that when it was considered at the October meeting, they have requested some further information. So that's been furnished to them, and they meet next in January. I'm not sure which date, I think possibly the 10th. So sometime after the 10th of January, we would expect to have an outcome. That's in relation to Beechworth. I think I've advised previously that there are no other towns in the Indigo Shire which which our Traffic Liaison Committee recommended be reviewed, but we're aware that some of our other towns already have 40 km/h speed limit. So Beechworth's the only one they've taken forward, and that's under review, and it's been put back now to the January meeting. Thank you.
Second question, item 35E of the Indigo Shire Governance Rules states, no question may be dealt with unless the questioner or a nominated representative is present at the scheduled council meeting at which the question is to be asked. The question is, can council provide details as to the requirements for and responsibilities of a nominated representative? The Executive Manager of People and Governance.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So a nominated representative is someone that the questioner nominates to represent them. And so this person must give prior agreement to be that representative, and then they attend the council meeting to hear the response.
And the third question, the council's selected Cultural Heritage Advisory Committee will hold a meeting on 15 December that will be open to the public and held via Zoom. Community members wishing to attend the meeting must email council to obtain a link. The question is, where will the meeting be held, and will council provide seating at the meeting for people who do not have a computer or are unfamiliar with Zoom? CEO.
Thank you, Robin, again. Look, unfortunately, in different circumstances, yes, we would provide a seat at the table or certainly in the meeting room. This particular meeting, because a number of the members of that advisory committee aren't based in the Shire, so it's a meeting that will be conducted entirely via Zoom. So I guess that's the opportunity for the public to join. So the advisory committees are open to the public, but because that's not being held face-to-face in a room, then we can't put people in a room with the other members. So Zoom's the only opportunity on that occasion. Thank you.
That concludes open forum. We'll now move to item 6, community and council achievements. Councillor Horn, I think you had a community and council achievement you wanted to raise.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to take a few minutes to acknowledge the wonderful work that our outside crews performed during the storms and bad weather that we've had, and also the SES people. They've done a magnificent job. I know they've put in overtime and tried to get the roads as clear as possible, as quickly as possible. And we acknowledge their wonderful service, and thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Horn. I now move on to item 7, condolences. Councillor Shepherd.
Yes. Sadly, a very important member of the Stanley and Beechworth community died last week, Helen McIntyre. I knew her. She was a teacher at Beechworth Secondary School when I was there, and she's about my age. So it always sort of, you know, it's sad when you know someone your own age that still has a lot of life to live and was a very important community agitator and community supporter. She was involved with the chestnut growers of Australia. She, as I said, she was a secondary teacher at Beechworth Secondary School. She was a curriculum advisor to Asia Education Foundation on Chinese 19th century history, and I know wrote a number of books of students on that particular area and in English. She was also an English teacher and wrote books in that area, curriculum books. She was involved with the Beechworth Environment Group, and she was instrumental in stopping logging on the Stanley Plateau in the 1990s. She was involved with Spring Ditch and Wetlands Committee, the Stanley Hall and Athenaeum Committee. She was Stanley Rural Community Inc. Secretary, and she was also very involved in the water mining campaign that her and her husband David went down, I know, to a number of events, and was they're very strong in that water mining campaign. And she also, I think the last thing that she was involved with council was she wrote a letter on behalf of the Stanley Athenaeum when we were looking at the tennis court site and what the road should be called. And she sent it in saying that I think we suggested Burke Court. And she said, there's no history or context for the name Burke at this site. Burke already is a well-known name in Indigo because of Burke Museum. Burke is a dead white male name regarding a failed expedition. Let's have some women's names in our new streets. So as you can see, I think that was just last year. So she always had something to say, and it was always positive. It really did make me think, yeah, exactly. Let's talk about women's names in Beechworth's streets. So I would like to Move that we send a letter of condolence under seal to her husband, David, and son, Michael.
Okay, so councillor Shepherd will move that. Who would like to second that?
I'd like to second it.
Councillor Goldsworthy second. All those in favour?
Yeah.
Carried. And we'd like to acknowledge the Queensland police tragedy as well. So on behalf of Indigo Shire, we'd like to extend our deepest condolences to all involved in the tragic shooting of 2 police officers and a member of the public in Queensland overnight. These shocking events have been felt deeply across our country. Our thoughts are with all police members across the country who serve to keep us safe every day. We now move on to item 8, which is confirmation of minutes from the previous meeting. The recommendation is that the following minutes be confirmed. 1, minutes of the council meeting held on 29th of November 2022 as published on council's website, and 2, confidential minutes of the council meeting held on 29 November 2022 as provided to councillors under separate cover. Do I have someone to move that? Moved councillor Tyson, seconded councillor Croucher. Would you like to say anything, councillor Tyson? Anyone against? Carried. Item 9 is business arriving from the previous minutes. There were some items from the general business and there's responses in the agenda. Item 10 is petitions and there are none. We'll move to item 11, planning and corporate services. 11.1 is the November 2022 finance report. And the recommendation is that council accepts the November 2022 finance report. Do I have someone to move that motion? Move councillor Croucher, seconded councillor Gaffney. Councillor Croucher.
Yes, I'd like to move to accept the financial report. I see that the financial position is favourable forecast, and despite the significant costs incurred from the recent floods situation, it is hoped that part of these expenses will be reclaimed from state government.
Councillor Gaffney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The income statement shows we are $1.14 million favourable on a year-to-year basis. The report shows in the borrowing section on page 13 that we always borrow over a 10-year period, and each loan that we've taken out has been either 1 million or 1.5 million. Our financial position is favourable to forecast, saying that our forecast for recent infrastructure damage has not been entirely assessed and may be of concern.
Would anybody else like to speak to the motion? Councillor Croucher, would you like to sum up? Is anybody against the motion? Carried. Item 11.2 is the rate cap variation 2023-2024. The recommendation is that council does not seek a rate cap variation for the 2023-2024 financial year. Do I have someone to move that? Moved councillor Gaffney, seconded councillor Shepherd. Councillor Gaffney.
Thank you. That's right, Madam Mayor. Indigo Shire Council is not seeking a rate cap variation. With the high cost of living, high inflation, interest rates increasing, it's not the time to increase rates above the state government rate cap increase, which was 1.75% for the past year. With major damage to our infrastructure during recent storm events, we may have to tighten our belts and watch our spending.
Councillor Shepherd, would you like to speak?
Also, we have a 10-year strategic resource plan that shows that at the moment, we don't really need a rate cap variation. And we also have to perform a community engagement process to gauge the community's views on any change that we might have, and that has to be done before this January, and we haven't done that. So, and as we said, as Councillor Gaffney said, we aren't seeking one this year.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Is anybody against the motion? Carried. Move to item 11.3, planning permit application PP 090202 Black Dog Creek Road, the Skeleton Hill Quarry, Chiltern. The item is for decision and the recommendation is that council approves an extension of time of 5 years to planning permit PP 090202 being for Black Dog Creek Road, Chiltern, for the use and development of land for the purpose of a quarry, extraction and processing of stone, and the construction of buildings and works for an associated processing plant. Do I have someone to move that motion? Moved Councillor Tyson, seconded Councillor Goldsworthy. Councillor Tyson.
Thank you. In moving this motion, it is not an endorsement of the applicant's potential use of the land. This is a procedural matter to limit any negative financial impact to Indigo Shire by a refusal. Thank you.
Councillor Goldsworthy, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, this has been a long and drawn out process, and unfortunately we don't have a lot of say in the matter. If we were to refuse this, then the potential for criticism by other instrumentalities is probably significant, namely VCAT.
Does any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Shepherd.
I just had a question if I could ask. I've had a number of people say to me that really if we had an environmental overlay on this site that we would be able to stop this. And I'm just really seeking clarification if that is the case. If we in the last couple of years since this lease has changed hands, if we put an environmental overlay on that, would that have made any difference to this lease extension?
The Director of Planning and Corporate Services.
Yeah, thank you for the question. It's a difficult one to answer with complete certainty, but it is very unlikely that a retrospective overlay would be successful, full stop in being approved as an overlay. And also there's some further questions about whether a retrospective overlay would prevent a permit from being extended. So it's in my view, it would be an unlikely course of action to change a permit that's already in place.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Tyson, as the mover, would you like to sum up? Anyone against the motion? Councillor Shepherd. Okay, so we'll take the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Croucher, Price, Gaffney, Tyson, Horn, Goldsworthy. Against? Councillor Shepherd. Motion's carried. Item 11.4 has been withdrawn from the agenda. So we move to item 12, Community and Economic Development, and item 12.1 is the Indigo Caravan Park Master Plans. Before I read out the recommendation, we thought it was important to note that there have been quite a number of changes to the master plans in response to the volume of community feedback that we've received. So if you'll bear with me, I would like to go through those changes. In terms of sustainability, while sustainability considerations were addressed as foundation principles in the draft master plans, their visibility could be improved. Therefore, the revised drafts, one, enhance the visibility of these elements, require engagement of the Indigo Environment Advisory Committee on the delivery of the master plans, make obvious the long-term objectives for all parks to meet Australian and global tourism sustainability criteria and obtain Ecotourism Australia accreditation, and provide additional information on specific sustainability initiatives. In relation to accessibility, while accessibility considerations were addressed as foundation principles in the draft master plans, their visibility could be improved. Therefore, the revised drafts enhance the visibility of these elements, require engagement of the Indigo Community Access Committee on the delivery of the master plans. In regards to Lake Sambell, the following adjustments have been made. The removal of proposed 6 large cabins on the hill. Normal planning processes will ensure environmental, cultural and legislative requirements confirmation that walking tracks will be maintained, boundaries of Lake Samble Master Plan realigned to the current lease boundaries. Any activations in the vicinity of the lake will be nature-based and consistent with the natural surroundings. The reference to inflatable activities has been removed. Any provision of a future pool in the caravan park would be wholly a private investment by the leaseholders and not a council or ratepayer funded investment, and notes that Lake Samble is not part of the caravan park lease area. With regard to Lake Anderson, the Chiltern Bowls Club lease boundary will be surveyed to confirm the park and club leasehold boundaries, and if necessary, modify the master plan. And some economic information provided by Odin 360. The key financials assumes the total construction costs of 18.5 million, funded leaseholder private 13.4 million, and Indigo Shire Council 5.1 million. Cost neutral to council, which means break even in 12 years. Increased ongoing income to Indigo Shire Council based on new leases of 800,000 per annum. Other economic benefits: generate 33 jobs during construction, provide 27 ongoing jobs directly related to the caravan parks, 3.17 million in caravan park revenue and 6.34 in annual visitor spending in the Indigo Shire. A further 34 jobs across the community due to this increased annual visitor spending, total 61 new ongoing jobs. I think I'll leave those last few comments. So the recommendation is that Council 1 notes that a significant number of submissions were received during the public exhibition period in September 2022. The recommended response to the submissions and key themes outlined in this report, that the feedback resulted in a substantial review of the draft master plans following public exhibition, including changes to the Lake Samble Caravan Park Master Plan. 2, adopts the following documents: Master Plans Overview November 2022 Caravan Parks Master Plans, Supporting Information November 2022 Caravan Parks Master Plans, High Level Indicative Economic Benefit Overview May 2022 Caravan Parks Master Plans, Draft Indigo Caravan Park Master Plans ×4, being the Lake Anderson Caravan Park Master Plan revised November 2022, the Lake Samble Caravan Park Master Plan revised November 2022, the Rutherglen Caravan Park Master Plan revised November 2022, and the Yakandanda Caravan Park Master Plan revised November 2022. Do I have someone to move that motion? Moved Councillor Tyson. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Shepherd. Councillor Tyson.
Thank you. The Caravan Park Master Plan is aspirational and demonstrates Indigo Shire Council's commitment to growing our tourism market and providing better amenity for them. We are an expanding tourism market. We are competing against not only locally other councils, but we're Australia-wide now. Many rural councils and even metro councils now invest in tourism. And with this plan, we will be better able to cater for what we hope is an expanding market. Thank you.
Councillor Shepherd, would you like to speak as seconder?
I reserve my right.
Would any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Councillor Croucher.
Yes, I'd just like to quote a few lines from the report that I feel is very important. It is important to emphasise the master plans are a blueprint for future vision. They'll provide a foundation for future development and investment. And the master plans are designed to be long-term and implemented gradually with phased investment and construction across a 10-year plus period. I think this is pretty pertinent to what the recommendation says.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Goldsworthy.
I'd like to say that this has been a significant piece of work that has taken a while to deliver, but I think it has the ability to promote our Shire and as a destination in itself. I think it'll attract a certain demographic of people that will make the financial benefits to our Shire quite significant. So it is a growing market and I'm keen to see this delivered.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Gaffney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just reading, as Councillor Croucher did, from the report from the consultant regarding supporting information. It is important to note that these master plans are conceptual, developed with a 10-year vision. The master plans are not detailed plans that are set in stone. They need to be considered as living, breathing documents that can be modified and adapted as situations change. It is also important to point out that these master plans are currently unfunded and will require an agreed contribution from both Indigo Shire Council and the current future lessees to action them. The cost of construction work and facilities, capital availability and interest rates at that time will be key in determining whether the complete plans can or will be implemented. Further in this report regarding the master plan overview, these are 10 years aspirational master plans. We are aware that significant capital is proposed to be invested by Indigo Shire Council into projects and infrastructure located near each of the parks. There is a significant amount of infrastructure currently in the parks, both above and below ground, that is well beyond its useful life and needs to be urgently replaced. This infrastructure cannot support the requirements of the master plans or the guest expectations. These upgrades, renovations, or replacements have been factored into the master plans and indicative costings. As has been said, the total construction cost of 18.5 million, the leaseholders, the private people, to put in 13.4 million, and Indigo Shire to put in, it says 5.1 to $2 million. And Indigo Shire Council will break even in 12 years in 2034. Currently, the money for the leases that's paid to Indigo Shire Council is $40,000 in total, and Indigo Shire gives half of that money back to the lessees for infrastructure costs. So if Indigo Shire is going to have to drum up, and it says urgently, $6 million, just a question for the CEO, where do we expect to get that money, which is almost half of our total infrastructure spend?
Thank you for the question. Look, I suppose firstly the context of urgent. So urgent is urgent, but we're not talking about in the next 1 or 2 years. We're talking about as we renew the leases. So I think the first of those would potentially come up in 2024, 25. So that's the time period. Look, I would expect that that's where council would look at borrowings to get the multi-generational benefit. And then there's, as we've heard from what you just quoted, some payback through increased revenue to flow back through the park. So an estimated 12-year payback. So yeah, I would think probably loan borrowings would be the best way to fund those works.
So my next question, Madam Mayor, is, so we're going to borrow up to $6 million on a project that's on land that's not owned by Indigo Shire, to property that is not in control of Indigo Shire. It's a private development, and Indigo Shire ratepayers are going to pay $6 million.
So is that a question?
Yes.
Look, I would frame differently your description of the land. So each of the 4 caravan parks are on Crown land. Council is the appointed committee of management on each of those parks. So we are the land manager in much the same way as lots of other bits of Crown land. We assume ownership of the assets. So some of our rec reserves and public halls are in that bracket. So, yeah, I think your question was around funding infrastructure improvements or assets on land that we don't manage. And I would say Crown land that we're the appointed committee of management. So we are the land manager. So I think that would be appropriate.
Thank you. We certainly don't own that land. It's Crown land. And as I said, currently Indigo Shire is paid $40,000, and this report says that by 2034 we'll be receiving $800,000. Whether that comes to fruition, we'll wait and see.
Would anybody else like to speak to the motion? Councillor Horn.
Firstly, I'd like to thank everyone who participated in this consultation process. It's very clear that there's wide and genuine community concern. I think we need to seriously question why we're continuing to look at new infrastructure projects. Our primary focus must centre around the timely restoration of our road networks to make them safe and serviceable and to protect the viability of local businesses. This will take more than discretionary funding. It's important to note that a new Land Act is expected to come down next year. So I'm struggling to understand the timing or the haste to move this project forward when there are other more pressing needs. I believe it would be prudent to wait until we have more certainty, more details, and we truly understand how the project aligns with not only community wishes, but also the Climate Emergency Declaration of 2020 and plans for a long-term future economic development and sustainability within a declining economic environment. Thank you.
Councillor Shepherd, you reserved your right.
Yes. In terms of roads, I think it's a completely different bucket of money that we'll be getting for roads as compared to our caravan parks. And again, this is an aspirational master plan that, of course, won't happen until we're working with the the managers to achieve them. From the people I've spoken to, the feeling I get is that some of them feel as though they've been stifled a bit by not having the opportunity to grow this business. And to some extent, I think that we are now committing. We're saying that we will assist them to grow these business and to plan in these business. As I've gone to these caravan parks over the last years that I've been councillor, I've noted that often there is a struggle around the infrastructure that's there, and we perhaps are avoiding spending the money there because we don't get much money back. Here's an opportunity to grow a business, to get more money back, and to assist the managers, whoever they may be, in providing a better business than what they've been able to provide with the limited funding that they've been able to get. So I think it is aspirational, but having spoken to some of the caravan park owners, I think they're keen to move on and to improve these caravan parks and improve these businesses. And I think it's a good investment. I also agree. I really appreciate, I read all of the submissions that people, especially there were a lot of submissions from Beechworth people. And I really got the sense of ownership and the sense of time and energy that this local community has put into Lake Samble. And you know, they know every tree, they know every path. They love that lake. And I really think that the feedback that they gave changed the master plan, and everyone's very much on notice that this is not to encroach on community space, and it's got to be sustainable, and it's got to still have the community access and community input. So I think it's a win-win at the moment.
Councillor Tyson, would you like to sum up?
In summary, I'd like to agree with some of the comments that Councillor Gaffney has made. but I would also like to reflect on the last part of his mayoralship, where he was, with positive mindset, a very good plan and fantastic advocacy, able to raise $6 million with his council towards Rutherglen's walk, cycle, ride and Barclay Park female change rooms. And I'd just like to thank him on that. Thank you.
Okay, we'll put it to the vote. Is anybody against the motion? Councillor Horn and Councillor Gaffney. So all those in favour of the motion, Councillor Croucher, Shepherd, Price, Tysell, those against, Goldsworthy, and those against. Councillor Gaffney and Councillor Horn, the motion is carried. Item 12.2 is the draft Rutherglen Place Plan. The recommendation is that council endorses the Rutherglen Place Plan. Number 1 endorses the draft Rutherglen Place Plan. Number 2 endorses the draft Rutherglen Community and Arts Precinct Hub concept designs. Number 3 places the draft Rutherglen Place Plan and the draft Rutherglen Community and Arts Precinct Hub concept designs on exhibition for 60 days. Number 4 extends sincere appreciation to the Rutherglen Place Plan Steering Committee for its ongoing engagement and project oversight. And 5 acknowledges the Rutherglen community for its detailed input and engagement on the draft. Do I have someone to move that motion? Moved Councillor Croucher. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Tysell, Councillor Croucher.
Yes, I think this is very important to note that the place plan was a co-designed with the Rutherglen Place Plan Steering Committee, who acted as a sounding board and provided critical guidance in such a worthy plan. I'm very, very pleased to see the engagement with our younger cohorts as well, who will be the ones to enjoy the final outcome of this project.
Councillor Tysell would like to speak as seconder.
Yes, this has once again happened in community consultation. And as Councillor Croucher alluded to, it went through the schools as well. So this was actually addressing our younger participants in our communities. Once again, this is envisionary and something that hopefully council with the right advocacy may be able to achieve.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Horn.
I think one of the very exciting parts of this consultative process, was the plans were actually road tested once they'd been developed to a certain stage. And there was a great deal of input by the broader community, and it's a very worthwhile project. Thank you.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Shepherd.
Is this going out for 60 days? Is that right?
That's correct.
60 days. I just was going to look at, and I've lost it, the engagement opportunities for the community. So I've lost it. There's some, a pop-up session with council officers and steering committee members, engaging general community in an informal way with simple collateral and draft from the community and arts hub concepts during February. So a session has been tentatively scheduled for Saturday, 18th of February, 9 to 11 a.m. at Gollings Square. Or people can have an online submission opportunity. They'll be available on the website, or a hard copy submission from the customer service library locations. And the above additional engagement opportunities will be promoted via posters, weekly update and steering committee networks. There's hopefully everyone in Rutherglen will have an opportunity to give feedback on this draft Rutherglen Place Plan.
Would anybody else like to speak to the motion? Back to you as the mover, Councillor Croucher. Would you like to sum up?
Yeah, just a sentence here. Look, I think it's a very worthwhile project, and I look forward to its development in the future.
Is anybody against the motion? Carried. Moving on to item 12.3 is the draft Creative Indigo Arts and Culture Strategy 2023 to 2027. The recommendation is that Council 1 endorses the draft Creative Indigo Arts and Culture Strategy 2023 to 2027, and 2 undertakes community engagement on the draft for a 60-day public exhibition period, and 3 extends appreciation to the Creative Indigo Strategy Steering Committee for their work in overseeing the draft development. Do I have someone to move that motion? Moved councillor Shepherd, seconded councillor Croucher. Councillor Shepherd.
So this has been a long process with Leith Thomas and that that group of creatives in the steering committee. And this is the resulting document, which I think we're all very happy with. The objectives are to embed art in public life, celebrate our diverse identities and heritage, and empower the creative sector. And then the outcomes and strategies are all in this document, which I'd really appreciate people's feedback. They've got 60 days to have a look. Indigo Shire is has the most creative people and industries really of all of the shires that that are involved in Murray Arts, because I'm in Murray Arts, and we note constantly that this shire has the most creative industries, creative artists, and at the moment they feel they haven't necessarily joined together. They're not part of a community. This document assists in creating meetings where they get together, where we look into what we could be doing in a public sense, how we can be celebrating those communities, how we can get youth involved. One of the things we noted was that there's not a lot of opportunities for youth to be involved, even though we do have a high incidence of artists and creative industries in the Shire. So I'd really appreciate people looking at this. And I think there's an opportunity in February, I think, in Shilton, again, for those people that would like to come and hear a presentation and to give feedback. And I'm sure that will be on the webpage and be advertised once the time and date comes up. But really looking forward to people's input as this goes out to the community for 60 days.
Councillor Croucher, would you like to speak as the seconder?
Yes, the Creative Indigo 23-27 strategy has been through a process of community consultation, the development of a steering committee under the guiding light of a consultant. This in turn has provided feedback and the development of key themes, and also enhances council's awareness of the opportunities that will occur as the plan develops. The time is now due to endorse the strategy and place the draft on public exhibition. And I'd like to congratulate the steering committee, and I was on it. Congratulate the steering committee on the results they have achieved.
Well done to you. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Shepherd, would you like to sum up?
No, that's fine, thanks.
I'll put the motion. Is anybody against? Carried. Item 12.4 is the draft Chiltern Destination Place Space Project Concept Designs. The recommendation is that council review the draft Chiltern Destination Place Space concept design ahead of release for public exhibition for 8 weeks following the December council meeting. For consistency with the last recommendations, I might ask that a councillor move that, but note that the exhibition period be for 60 days. Do I have someone to move that motion? Moved councillor Tyson, seconded councillor Horn. Councillor Tyson.
Yes, this just allows for the Christmas break and gives anyone who wants to actually make public comment a little bit extra time. That includes not only our own citizens, but those travelling through. Thank you.
Councillor Horn. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion?
Is this the motion just to extend the date, or is it the whole?
Oh, no, sorry, that is the motion. That's what I asked, if you're comfortable with moving the 60 days as the whole motion. So the motion just includes that.
Oh, so it's the whole.
Yes. So would you like to speak to the motion, including the 60 days? Sorry, that's my error. Councillor. He's moved the motion with the 60 days. Yes.
This is only 60 days. It's nothing to do with.
No, he's moved. I said that it could be moved as the motion with 60 days. That's the motion that Councillor Tyson has moved.
Just the 60 days.
No, the entire motion with the inclusion of 60 days. So councillor Tyson, I'll give you the opportunity to again speak as the mover of the motion.
Yes, this is another one of the great developmentally or development of a great precinct within Chiltern. It's once again visionary. It's council has worked with Regional Development Victoria to come up with a plan that is both appealing. It's really something that's quite new and is not available or in any of the towns or regions around us. And it really would make Chiltern, as it is, a destination place. And its proximity to the freeway and other towns around it would enhance the community and Indigo Shire greatly. Thank you.
Councillor Horn, would you like to speak as seconder?
I'm concerned again about the timing of this project. I'm not against it in its desire to create this idea. But again, I just believe that we are in a repair and recovery mode. And I just wonder if our communities who are recovering from flooding, etc., and COVID are really looking for this type of development at this point of time. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak to the motion? Councillor Shepherd. Councillor Shepherd, you speak to the motion.
When I first heard about a destination playground, I thought, what is a destination playground and what does that look like? I've been to lots of playgrounds and they're playgrounds. But when I saw this design, as you said, Councillor Emmerich, it is aspirational and it's quite amazing. And I know people might look at it and go, wow, is this, but to me, this is a destination. I would bring children to this place. I also like the tentatively called Chiltern Climate, as in climate, but also climate, because most of the features are like like rainbow and clouds, climbing frame, a sensory storm water play, hot pools, all ability access play and pool. So it's really climate based in terms of what will be showcasing, but also looks like a really fun place to play. And I love the idea of night activation with the lights as well, that'll all be solar. And I think I really look forward to the Chiltern community and perhaps beyond Chiltern community, because this is a sort of thing that people are going to come from all over the Shire and outside the Shire to play here, I think.
Would anybody else like to speak to the motion? Councillor Gaffney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, this is certainly something special. It's something very, very special. It's certainly visionary. We're told that the concept design costing is $11 million. And we've also been told that to deliver this, that it would be closer to 15 million and could be more. It certainly rivals a lot of other places in Australia. And when you look at the plan, and as Councillor Shepherd said, climb it, but it's spelt CLIMB-IT. And when you read about it, it's got a resort style pool, year-round swimming pool for the community and visitors alike, seating and lounging areas. It's also got thermal pools, year-round swimming pool for the community. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the resort style. The thermal pool, year-round use, natural stone and planting with shade trees, and it's also got a toddler pool. So the amount of money we would need to spend is more than our entire infrastructure budget. I'm not against spending, but just the amount of money, I think it's a great plan. whether it fits in with Indigo Shire or not. I'd like to think it would, but I think money is a serious issue, and 15 million, boy.
Would anybody else like to speak to the motion? Councillor
Could I
Croucher.
just ask a question? Will this just go only to Chiltern for their feedback, or is it the sort of thing that all throughout the Shire would sort of be interested in making comments about? Somebody, I'd just be interested in that, because I can see it fantastic for Chiltern people, but I can also see it fantastic for the whole Shire to come down and use this facility as well. Is that?
CEO, did you want to answer that question?
Oh, look, thanks for the question. I think the simple answer is engagement would not be limited to the people of Chiltern. I think, as we've heard tonight, the benefits would be far-reaching, and I think Councillor Tyson mentioned at the start, even over the Christmas, January period, you're going to have holiday people in town. So I think the engagement would be appropriately wide-reaching.
Yeah, thank you.
Did anybody else want to speak to the motion? Councillor Croucher, did you want to speak as that was a question or no? Councillor Goldsworthy, did you want to speak?
Could I just ask a question?
Yes, Councillor Gaffney.
What's going to happen with the old pool? Is that going to be demolished to make the resort pool that's able to be swimming 12 months of the year?
Look, I think it's a difficult one to answer. This is just a concept. I suppose if this concept was fully realised, then yeah, the old or the existing pool would need to make way, because it's in the footprint of the area covered by these plans. But yeah, anything we see going forward, it will be subject to the funding that comes our way, and likely to be staged. So look, it's very dependent on how we get funding, going forward, and what it's specifically for.
Would anybody else like to speak to the motion? Councillor Tyson, would you like to sum up?
One of the things that I forgot to add to this was that most of the artworks and that provided to it, and the play equipment will all be made from one of our local people here in Yakandanda. So potentially there's more jobs that come along with it as well. Thank you.
I'll put the motion. Anyone against the motion? Councillor Horn, Councillor Gaffney, all those in favour? Councillor Croucher, Shepherd, Price, Tysell, Goldsworthy, and those against? Councillor Horn, Councillor Gaffney, the motion is carried. Item 14 is executive management, and 14.1 is the report on the activity and performance of community asset committees. The recommendation is that Council 1 receives and notes the report of the activities and performance of Council's community asset committees. 2, notes the committee survey results as attached to this report. 3, acknowledges the challenges faced by some community asset committees and the work being undertaken by council officers to increase the sustainability of committees into the future. And 4, thanks community asset committee volunteers in writing for their contribution to the management of council facilities. To have someone to move that. Moved Councillor Croucher. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Shepherd. Councillor Croucher.
Yeah, look, it's great to see our committees of management working so well to manage our Shire facilities. It's also important that our Shire continue to support these committees and the management and maintenance of all of our facilities as well. Again, it is our volunteers who rise to the occasion and must be thanked for the outstanding work they do in all parts of the Shire.
Councillor Shepherd, would you like to speak as seconder?
I just think it's sad that the acronym is CACS. But I also second that it's selfless, the volunteerism of the community that go on these CACS, community asset committees, and work tirelessly on behalf of council. Really, they're value adding to us. If we had to pay for all that work to be done and for all that to be done, all the running of those particular 13 halls and sports things and gold batteries, it would cost us and it would cost the community even more so, a lot of money. So I think we really need to thank them. I mean, a letter will be going out to them, but if you know somebody on a community asset committee, please thank them on your behalf.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Back to you as the mover, councillor Croucher. Would you like to sum up?
Just to sum up, I see our local committee of management at Colson Park in Tangambalanga, and I see the amount of work that they do, and it's happening all over the Shire, and I just congratulate them on what they do.
Is anybody against the motion? Carried. Item 14.2 is contracts awarded under Chief Executive Officer delegation for November 2022. It's for information and there were no contracts awarded. Item 14.3 is the informal meetings of councillors' records. The recommendation is that council accepts the attached informal meetings of councillors' records. Do I have someone to move that? Moved councillor Shepherd, seconded councillor Horn. Councillor Shepherd. Councillor Horn, is anybody against the motion? Carried. Item 14.4 is advisory committee minutes. The recommendation is that council receives, that council 1 receives the attached unconfirmed advisory committee minutes. 2 notes the following recommendation from the finance committee and that the action is completed. A, that council accepts the October 2022 year-to-date finance report. Could I have someone to move that? Moved councillor Shepherd. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Gaffney. Councillor Shepherd, would you like to speak? Councillor Gaffney? Is there anybody against the motion? Carried. Item 15 is notices of motion and there are none. Item 16 is councillors' reports. Would any councillor like to make a report to the meeting? No.
I'd just like to mention, Madam Mayor, that that Councillor Croucher and I attended the local safety committee meeting with Victoria Police at Tangambalanga. I think the minutes of that meeting are confidential, but I think it's just really fantastic that Indigo Shire Council and the police are working together. We're now well aware of crime that's occurring in Indigo and how we can be of assistance. And Councillor Croucher and I spoke to the police about issues that have been brought to council that regarding some offences being committed, even though they mightn't be that bad, the community is concerned about. And it was mentioned that the Indigo Shire Local Safety Committee is probably the best in North East Victoria.
Would any other councillor like to make a report? Item 16.1 is the Mayor's Diary. Any questions? Item 17 is the Decisions Register, which is for information. Item 18 is General Business. Do we have any general business for the council meeting? Councillor Tyson.
Yes, I have a couple today, thank you. One is the opening of the toilet facility at Barnawappa with the school holidays on us, approximately when that might happen or if it's going to happen at all. So, Director of Infrastructure and Services.
Yeah, thanks for the question. At this stage, I know that we've got a contractor engaged to complete the restoration works to it. The sewer was damaged on it. We're trying to get that done before Christmas, but aside from that, I'll just have to take that on notice and come back to you.
Thank you very much. And one is a pretty common theme, which I'm sure most councillors have been asked, is going forward with the school holidays, are our pools going to be open regularly?
Question to the CEO, is that right?
Thank you, councillor. Look, really good question. I think what we need to do is just work with the management company that looks after them, Belgravia Leisure. As you would know, or some of the community would be aware, we're still currently trialling a temperature-based opening and closure policy. So to get around the uncertainty that people would have. At the moment, we're using 23 degrees as a forecast temperature, the prior evening to make a determination whether the pool's going to be open. So that helps patrons and it helps, staffing. We've had an unseasonably mild spring and early summer, and here we are into summer now, and still not seeing very warm temperatures. Just before I sort of get to the point of your question, just to reinforce, for every hour or day lost at the start of the season during those closures, the arrangement with the contractor is that we would make up that time, by staying open later, in the warmer days, or potentially extending the season longer. Of course, that's impossible to predict with the weather. So look, I guess your question then centres on, now that we get into school holidays and looking for some certainty, temperature aside, that the pools would be open. I think that's something that we can certainly take on notice, talk to the contractor about, and sort of have some discussions, and we'll need to come back and give council some update on that.
Can I ask a follow-up question on that?
Councillor Goldsworthy, you've got a question on that?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if at the end of the season it's still less than 23 degrees, what will be the case then?
CEO?
Thanks, councillor. Look, so the best I could answer that now is, if we weren't able to make up during the course and at the end of the season for the time lost, there'd be some sort of variation, a contract variation need to be worked out. I'm not across the clauses, but that's what I would expect would happen. That what we've tried to do in this trial is just find a better way, have the season or have the pool open sort of longer during warmer times. But look, it's obviously caused the uncertainty and days lost. So look, should it not turn out, as we'd hoped, then look, I would expect there to be a contract variation made. But the conversation here, and Councillor Tysell's question, is about potentially, looking at a more rigid opening structure over the holiday period.
Yep. So how can we ensure that occurs? Do we need to make an urgent motion to say, work with Belgravia to ensure that they are open for the regular hours despite the temperature?
Look, I guess council, could certainly choose to do that. As an officer, I don't feel I need that certainty. I mean, I think what we've heard tonight in the chamber, for us to go away and work with Belgravia, I don't think, Belgravia is our contractor, so it's not about them standing in the way. What we've done is trialled something to date, and the ongoing mild conditions, probably cause a frustration all round. So I think we can take that forward as an action to go and work with Belgravia and provide some certainty, but that I suppose doesn't stop council from making an absolute motion.
Well, it'd be nice to have further certainty, because this question was raised at the last meeting, effectively around the operation of our swimming pools. There was an answer provided, but it doesn't give any comfort to the community when they want to swim.
I'll take that as a last comment to those questions. Any other general business for you, Councillor Tysell?
No, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Gaffney, you have general business?
Yes, council has been contacted by the president of the Beechworth Chamber of Commerce regarding AusNet having a power outage in Beechworth on the 21st of December 2022 to replace a pole. We're told that it's not urgent business, and it's going to have a very detrimental effect on the economy of Beechworth to have the power outage on that date. I was just requesting that council make overtures to whoever, particularly AusNet, and asking whether they could change that date.
CEO?
Thanks, councillor. Look, I'm certainly aware that the issue arose late last week, and I know through council's economic development officer, we have, on behalf of the Beechworth Chamber of Commerce, made representations to AusNet Services, and ultimately it'll be their call. But we hope that the advocacy that we've put forward will bear fruit. I have heard, but I'm not certain on the urgency of the works. But we've certainly put it to AusNet to see if they're possibly able to reschedule.
Thanks. And one other small thing, I did see the mayor on YouTube advising that submissions to the draft budget close next Friday. So if you've got issues about the upcoming budget, it'd be good if you could get those submissions in by the close of business next Friday.
Any other items for general business? Councillor Horn.
I have a question for Director of Infrastructure Services relating to the repair works on the drain at Lake King in Rutherglen.
Yeah, thank you, councillor. I'd just like to note that the drain downstream of Lake King in Rutherglen is not council infrastructure, that's DELP infrastructure. That said, since the January floods, council have worked quite closely with DELP to understand that infrastructure. To that end, we've engaged GHD to complete additional stormwater modelling to what they'd originally done in 2015. The point of that modelling was to understand the whole of the Lake King catchment and also take into account the retardation capacity of the modified dam. Those works were largely completed in October, and in late November we received the final report on that. It was important that we had that before we did any further works to the infrastructure downstream, because that has identified whether it's adequate or not, whether the sizing is appropriate for long-term use. Now that we've got that in place, the next steps for council are to go, or basically to complete the review of all those recommendations in that report, but also to go back to DELP in the new year and discuss with them how and when they intend to reinstate that infrastructure.
So you haven't got any idea of when it's likely to be completed?
Well, it's not our infrastructure, so I
No.
can't really comment on that. I can say that we have been in contact with DELP, and we'll raise it with them again early in the new year.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
Any other items for general business? Councillor Shepherd.
I've been approached by a couple of Yakandanda community members who are keen to look at getting a crossing from Yak Health across to Isaac Park. And they're just interested in the process, really. I know it's not our road, it's Regional Roads of Victoria, but what procedure should they follow in terms of suggesting there be a crossing there? I'm happy for it to be taken on notice if it's difficult.
CEO.
Yeah, thanks, councillor. Look, I did check in with one of our staff who sits on our traffic liaison committee. So that's the committee where Council, Regional Roads Victoria and Victoria Police collaborate on those sorts of issues, road safety, speed zones and the like. So I believe this matter has come up, but I'm not sure that's ever been resolved. So I've been told this evening that will be put back on the agenda for the next meeting. Your question around what the community could do, look, I think a bit of advocacy always helps. So if you've got people in the community who have experienced firsthand some of the problems or difficulties, or want to put the weight of their support sort of into a letter, I think that means that there's at least some knowledge going into a discussion around the table. It's not just things to be referred on third hand. So there's no formal way, but I'd certainly encourage a letter without going over the top.
A letter to council?
Well, look, a letter to staff. I think if it's addressed to the CEO, then that can be delegated from there.
Thank you.
Any other items of general business?
I'd like to move. I'd like to move an urgent motion. I'd like to move that the CEO inform Belgravia Leisure that the Indigo Shire swimming pools are to be opened as per the normal operating hours, and that conditions relating to the minimum forecast temperature is no longer to be acted on.
Council's clear what the voting on. I didn't quite catch.
Can you repeat the motion again?
Sorry,
please,
Larry, I
Councillor
didn't
Goldsworthy?
quite catch all the wording.
Yep. That the CEO informed Belgravia Leisure that the Indigo Shire swimming pools are to be opened as per the normal operating hours, and that the conditions relating to minimum forecast temperature is no longer to be acted on.
Okay, CEO would like to make a comment.
I suppose it's a question in a way, or maybe a comment. So my understanding of the contract and the way it operates before we put in the trial this year was that opening and closing in extreme hot and cold conditions was left to the discretion of the operator. So, you know, we could certainly remove the 23 threshold. Somewhere along the line, I guess the risk is opening at cold days, so there's no makeup. But I would need to be mindful of what's actually in the contract, because if we removed the 23-degree threshold, I think the contract probably still has a clause that in the extreme cold times it's at their discretion. So the 23 was brought in to try and help manage that for the benefit of both parties. And like I said before, the extremely mild conditions have obviously not manifested that way. So I suppose I'm just exercising a little bit of caution that a council resolution or an instruction to me, you know, may be not consistent with the contract we have in place. So we just need to be cautious around that.
Yep.
Councillor Gaffney, you still in, Councillor Goldsworthy, you still intend to move that motion?
Yes, I do, because the wording of it is the condition relating to the minimum forecast temperature is no longer to be acted on. So you can remove, you can have discussions with them. That gives sufficient scope to have discussions with them to remove that 23. But I think we need to give the community some certainty. So I'm putting up the motion. If I can get a seconder to support it, happy to debate it.
Is there a seconder to Councillor Goldsworthy's motion? Seconded Councillor Croucher. Councillor Goldsworthy, would you like to speak to it?
Yes, there has been significant community concern around the operating hours, whether our Vic Swim will go ahead over the holidays, whether schools that have booked the facilities will be able to access it. I appreciate that the temperature at the moment may not be of swimmable weather for most people, but there are definitely people within our community that will swim in any weather. This 23 degrees has criteria has caused too much confusion for our community, and it's certainly put us in a poor light. I think that we will lose even more of our swimming public if we continue to on with this condition, and so it needs to be removed.
Councillor Croucher, would you like to speak as seconder?
Yeah, what I would particularly like to see, exactly what Councillor Goldsworthy has said, but for the CEO to have a chat in consideration with that, just with Belgravia, particularly to understand that, yes, we are a bit worried about these times and about people not being able to attend and all that sort of stuff. So I'm certainly in agreement that the CEO talk to Belgravia with this in mind as well.
Would anybody else like to speak to the motion? Councillor Shepherd?
I have concerns with the motion. I absolutely agree with the underlying consideration. I think the 23 degrees has thrown everybody. I don't think people know whether it's going to be open or not. And the amount of communication that then has to happen to let people know is also confusing. But I am concerned about giving a direction to the CEO when he has prompted that there could be a problem with the contract that we need to discuss, and I think we can give direction that is more generalised than taking away the 23 degrees. I agree it should go, but it needs to be done in view of what our contract is and what the CEO can negotiate within the contract that is reasonable. I'm just concerned about that direction might be limiting and it might cause more problems than what it's going to solve.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Gaffney?
I agree with councillor Shepherd. If it's in the contract, and Belgravia are doing exactly what's in the contract, for us to then move a motion on an operational issue, changing the contract midstream. And it's been spoken about today about a neighbouring shire who has their pools open and there's lifeguards there and no one's swimming. And we've been wondering what the cost would be to that council. And I can tell you today, just about everybody was wearing overcoats down here, and I doubt whether anybody would be swimming anywhere.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Horn?
I know that we had problem engaging lifeguards. So I think if there was the uncertainty of whether they'd actually have a shift or not was taken away, it would be of benefit to them as well. And we may find that we are able to engage Belgravia to employ people.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Tyson?
Yeah, look, I agree that we probably aren't in a very good spot. Like it isn't very warm here today, and Larry is probably in a considerably warmer climate than we are, with respect to Councillor Goldsworthy. But I do think that perhaps we can give the CEO some direction about trying to firm up operating times, especially around the school holidays. Perhaps we sacrifice at the end just to make sure that we do potentially have that service available 7 days a week over at least that period of time, and see whether or not we can achieve that with the current provider. Perhaps that might be a little bit better outcome for our communities in a short period of time.
Was there anybody else that would like to speak to the motion? If not, I'll go back to Councillor Goldsworthy if you'd like to sum up.
Yeah, only that we need to give our community some more certainty, and I do have concerns, and I believe that towards the end of our swim seasons, quite often the temperatures are cooler than forecast 23 degrees. So the likelihood of us extending it is quite low, given the current climate in which we find ourselves, and the amount of days that have already been lost. So I believe that the motion gives sufficient scope and direction to the CEO to go back to Belgravia and have them remove the condition in relation to 23 degrees. And the contract costs, I believe, would still be as per forecast, because we've contracted them to open over certain hours. And in relation to those that swim, morning swimming, definitely you'll get people out there no matter what the temperature.
Okay, I'm going to put the motion as Councillor Goldsworthy has read out to us twice, and so I'm going to call for all those in favour of that motion. All those in favour? And those against? So again, I'll call all those in favour: Councillor Croucher, Goldsworthy, Horn, Tyson. Those against: Shepherd, Price, Gaffney. The motion is carried. I think there were no, were there any further items of general business? If not, we'll move to item 19, confidential. This matter is considered to be confidential under Section 3(1)(f) of the Local Government Act 2020, as it deals with personal information being information which, if released, would result in the unreasonable disclosure of information about any person or their personal affairs. This section applies because the information contains the names of people nominated for awards and the names of people who are recommended to receive awards. This is unreasonable disclosure, as not all nominations will receive a reward and are the subject of decision. The names of successful recipients will be made public at Australia Day ceremonies. The recommendation is that the council meeting be closed to the public in accordance with Section 66 of the Local Government Act 2020. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Gaffney, seconded Councillor Horn. Anybody against that motion? Carried. I'll close the meeting. So I'd now like to close the meeting. I'll close the meeting at 8 p.m. And wish everybody a Merry Christmas. And the next scheduled council meeting is Tuesday, the 28th of February, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. 23 at 6 p.m.